And now it's time for Lene to present us with the content about what are we living now, about hypermodernism and metamodernity. How do you see it? What can you share with us as an expert and someone that is joining all these people around the world to support us in this moment? So please, the floor is yours, Lene.
Thank you, Ines, and thank you everybody else who's here, and everybody who's participated in the two previous sessions where we heard about Maori traditions for greetings and for the haka, and how to express your connection to your ancestors and representing the ancestors and the energy and everything in the world. And then we've been a tour to Japan with an introduction about the Tokai University that has been inspired by Danish school tradition, but the study of culture, the conversation, and what we're also doing here, the conversation. And then we had 3 or 4, depending on how you count, presentations from China, about Peking opera, traditional singing, and then about Tai Chi and tea, and how you connect with Earth and with the stars, and with being a human being, and with civilization and who we are. And that is really what I want to talk about, or it's part of what I want to talk about, because this has very much been representing the tradition, the past and the present, and what we have with us from Oceania and East Asia, culturally, spiritually, and ways of being human, and how people have made sense of the world historically. And here we are in a time of great challenges. We've known about environmental changes for at least 50 years. It's been 50 years since the Club of Rome came out with the book Limits to Growth, but we've also heard about pollution, and now there's climate change. We've had a pandemic, and now we have a war in Europe, which is not just a war that is terrible the way that all wars are, but where people are also talking about maybe this being the Third World War, and it's a nuclear war at some point. I certainly hope it won't be. There's also people who fear the use of chemical weapons. So we have plenty of challenges. Among the challenges are also our own technologies, such as artificial intelligence, and maybe we're inventing things that are smarter than ourselves, or maybe just dumber at a faster pace and a higher level of complexity where we cannot follow the decisions made by the technologies. So we're actually in a pretty serious moment in time. And one of the good things is that the technologies have allowed us to communicate like this and connect like this, which is amazing. And I think what was amazing about the 2 previous sessions was that whenever people were talking about their heritage from a physical perspective, where they were using the human body, I would say the haka that we saw, we didn't see a performance of the haka, but we did see a few movements, and we did see pictures from it. And I think that all of us, at least I can only speak for myself, but I hope that others had the same impression, that we react to it physically, that there's something universally human about us that allows us, even on a small screen like this, to connect with other people, and even to do it around the globe. And then we had the Chinese singing, and we had a video with Tai Chi, and my blood pressure fell, and it fell even lower when we heard about how to have 7 cups of tea, and what that does to your well-being and your spirit. And so this is who we are, and it is where we are. And the big question is, how do we connect that, and how do we create a future for ourselves that is meaningful, and where we have all those human aspects, and where we do create a future within which humans can thrive, and where we can enjoy well-being. And so the title that I gave my short presentation here is about hypermodernism and metamodernity and what could possibly go wrong, because there are several visions for the future, or ideas about what the future might be like. And some of them are positive and opens a lot of opportunities for us, and some of them risk being very horrible and us losing it all. And so I'll start on the dark side and talk about hypermodernity, because metamodernity and hypermodernity have been juxtaposed back in the 90s by a philosopher named Borkman, and I actually forgot his first name, which is embarrassing that I'm talking about his contribution. But hypermodernity is where we take all the inventions of modernity, the technological inventions, and we let the market and our desires and our short-sightedness decide how we solve problems and use the technologies, and we make the present and the future hyper-modern, which means that we will have higher speed, we will use more force, we will use more power, we will be materialistic, and everything will be about optimizing power, productivity, consumption, life itself, and optimizing in a way that does not leave room for all the spirituality, the connectedness to nature, the embodiment that we have just heard about in the previous presentations. So hypermodernity is a world of concrete, of silicium, silicon, computers, AI, and very remote from what it means to be human and the 300,000 years of humaneness and being human beings, and modern human beings in the genetic sense as Homo sapiens sapiens. And this hypermodernity does not connect well with who we are as biological, emotional, cultural beings, spiritual beings. So that's one possible future. And we're in a time where we face that choice. The other option, and that is what I've been working on for the past many years in one way or the other, but the past 6 or 8 years, I've been referring to it as metamodernity, which is a future that is based on what it means to be human, what is meaningful to humans, and who we are as a species, and where we bring with us the heritage that has allowed us to be meaning making as human beings, and that is what we've just experienced in these different presentations. So my concept of metamodernity is that we honor and cherish and bring with us the experience of almost 300,000 years of Albert Borkman. Somebody Googled him, thank you, on hypermodernity. So the metamodernity that I'm talking about, where we honor who we are as indigenous Stone Age people, that's really how we're being born to this very day. We're born as Stone Age people, and by the age of 18, people expect us to be modern citizens who can take responsibility as adults. So in between we're born and we turn 18, we somehow have to acquire the skills and understandings of the 21st century. And so my concept of metamodernity is that everything that we were throughout the Stone Age, whether it's as hunter-gatherers or with early horticulture or agriculture, we need to learn from that, and we need to have that kind of intimate relationships, tribal communities, and spiritual connection with each other and with nature. We need to bring that along with us, and we need to explore that, and we need to be able to express that. And some of the ways where we have been able to express that is in religion and in the spiritual traditions that we just heard about from China. And that came with the Bronze Age and the Iron Age and the first really big societies with maybe hundreds of thousands of people. And China had some of the first cities with 100,000, 300,000 people, where some of these traditions emerged. And from this pre-modern traditional world, there's a lot of cultural heritage, aesthetics, rituals, traditions, practices that allow us to function together with thousands of people that are people we don't know personally, and to keep societal structures intact, and to connect at a spiritual level, an aesthetic level, at a musical level. And it's part of our history. And this has taken very different shape and form around the globe, as we just experienced also. And then there is, of course, the modern era, everything happening after the invention of the printing press. This includes also colonialism, which we need to deal with and make up for. But it also includes modern science, equal rights, and democracy, and transparent institutions, and equality, or at least goals and opportunities that are equal. So we need the modern world as well. And then there's the postmodern experience, which has evolved and strengthened and sort of deconstructed everything in our Western, at least in Western culture, for the past 20, 30 years. And there's some really crucial qualities to postmodernism, because we need to be able to have that ability to sort of lift ourselves out from the situation we're in, and look at our own culture from the outside, and switch perspective and look at our own situation culture from somebody else's perspective. And that really is a postmodern skill. And there's a language developing for that. Some call it woke. Some call it systems perspective. Some calls it multiple perspectives. But the bottom line is that we need to be able to not just function, but actually appreciate being around people who are different from ourselves, who come with different perspectives, different traditions, different ways of expressing themselves, and who, of course, have to be able to do the same. So we have to, develop this dance ability to be around and communicate with and interact with and live with and thrive with people who bring in different perspectives and experiences than ourselves, both as individuals and from a collective point of view as cultures. So when I talk about metamodernity, that is really what I'm talking about, the creation of a future culture, a future civilization that has the local indigenous prehistoric roots, that has the traditions of the Bronze and the Iron Ages that grew out of that soil, that place, that climate and flora and fauna, and the modern world, the modernity that was the sort of first phase of globalization, and that allows all individuals to thrive and connect and find their own path in life. And then the postmodern way of being able to see your own perspective from the outside and switch between perspectives. And we cannot expect this from everybody when they turn 18, but we can definitely work towards it. And we can also, I hope, provide young people with deep roots into the cultural fabric where they are and where they grew up. And I really appreciated this young Chinese singer who tries to revive the singing tradition that has been challenged by the modern development in China and elsewhere. So I would say the what could possibly go wrong was my rhetorical question in the title for my presentation. We could end up in a hypermodernity with constant surveillance and AI monitoring us, and storing video of everything that we do, and where we have no freedom from our own history, because everything has been saved somewhere on servers that we don't necessarily know who owns the data. Or we could create this meta-modern world where we have the cultural heritage with us, and where we have these multitudes of cultural heritages around the world. And I think we would be a remarkably poor species if we ended up having just one hypermodern culture with the same. I'm not particularly mentioning any brands over others, but I would say if everybody just had Starbucks around the globe, and everybody just had Netflix around the globe, and everybody just had Nike shoes around the globe, that would be a very impoverished globe to live on. But if we could have many kinds of coffee and many kinds of shoes and many kinds of cultures, we could actually make a fantastic future for ourselves. And so that is my opening for the discussion about what does it mean to be human in the 21st century. So on that note, what could go wrong and what could also go very well, I hope.